Oh, okay, you played us in, now play us out.
And this has been Duck Dynasty, so we'll catch you next week when Spencer hosts and we talk blank. Oh, you thought I was going to give it away? I'm not.
Oh, I knew better.
I'm Van Lee. I'm the host this week of Boob Tube Boys, and you have heard ZZ Top rocking in the only way they know how, which is quasi-rock-like. I don't know. I don't have a lot of endearment for ZZ Top. They're fine. Brian Vaughn, how do you feel about ZZ Top? You've got the big bushy beard. You've got the sunglasses. You love motorcycles.
Surprisingly, I'm okay with ZZ Top.
They know what they are.
There's a little bit of swagger to it.
They don't
fun.
pretend to be like, oh, we're artists. No, it's like, no, we're two fucking dudes making rock music, which, fine, great.
Yeah. Also, I did not encounter ZZ Top on my duck adventures this week.
No, more on that later. Spencer, I just have to ask, did you know that of the three members of ZZ Top and the two that have beards?
No, already.
The one who doesn't have a beard is named John Beard.
No, that's the height of irony. Height of irony.
Spencer Hendricks here. You're joining me for Duck Dynasty.
I am.
How do you feel about this?
I'm going to be enthusiastic. I wish I had the duck call. I could do that right now.
I took the time to buy a harmonica for Renegade. Didn't take the time to buy a duck
calls,
call.
Huh?
How much do you think those things cost from the Duck Commander people? Is that right?
I have no idea.
I figure if you get one, you can bag yourself a bag full of ducks and sell them. So you could. It pays for itself.
The duck market is booming right now too. What with COVID?
I've heard there. Have you guys ever eaten duck? It's supposedly really
amazing,
really crispy.
Yeah, because it's very fatty. So as long as you cook it the right way,
I'm worried about
one
the
of my
texture
favorite
on
meats.
that. I'm worried about the texture. I've never tried it.
I like the concept of a bag of duck meat because maybe, something that Helen Hunt's mom would give to Paul Reiser, just a bag full of duck meat.
You just pull it out of your jacket pocket.
They would have left it
also
in the car. They would have had, it's where we parked a mile away. We'll have to go get it. It's rotting in his car.
Hey, so just so you guys know, if you wanted to get a Duck Commander Jace Robertson Pro Series duck call,
and I do,
$45.50 on Amazon right now.
Wow.
No, but it's the real deal.
But here's the thing. On duckcommander.com/duck-calls/ you can get that same thing for $70.
Wow.
I'd rather pay more.
If you wanted to get the Duck Commander Phil Robertson Pro Series duck hunting accessory and gear, it's $59.99, which is $30 more than the Duck Commander Camo Max Duck Call Hunting Waterfowl Lanyard accessory.
Man, look at all this instant shopping things we're doing, and I've added all these to my wish list, by the way. My birthday's coming up if you guys want to give me one of those things.
Well, look, if you're on a budget, you can get the Gadwall Magnum Duck Call for $15.99 on duckcommander.com.
No, I want premium duck.
Well, if you haven't figured it out, we're talking Duck Dynasty. I think I said that. I don't know. I figured I'd get it.
It's all a blur at this point after the week we've had watching these.
Brian Vaughn, you made me do this.
I did. I made us all do this.
We're playing, as you said, Hot Potato, and you've chosen Duck Dynasty for me. You and your sister, I'll add.
Yeah,
she giving your sister some shit, too. She does. And after you had to do Queer Eye.
Yes.
Because Spencer picked it for you. Well, at the end of next week's episode, I'll be revealing what I picked for Spencer.
And as far as I know, nobody knows yet.
No one knows.
One person knows.
Is you? Okay.
I told her.
You told
the only person in this room who routinely sleeps in a bed with Van knows the answer to this question.
Routinely. I'm glad you tossed that in there because it has happened.
I've probably slept in a bed with you.
I'm sure we have.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we've known each other for so long.
Plus,
Plus all the sex we have.
Exactly. He beat me to it. Okay, so yeah, Duck Dynasty. Anyway, you'll find out about the show later that I picked for Spencer. And keep in mind, when I reveal that show next week, that Brian did this to me, so I have a lot of rage.
And up top, I would like to just announce to you guys, you know what? Let's all sit in a circle here. Let's gather. Let's get in a circle.
We've done this, and none of you guys are very good at folding your legs in, so let's not get in a circle.
I'm all right at it. He's really
It's
bad
not
at
good.
You have bad joints too, though.
Oh, yeah.
Your joints are bad.
Oh, they're not good.
Mine's mainly just this one, the left kneecap, that has the issue.
It's all of them.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to myself also for what I did to us this week. I thought it would be a nice little lark.
It was funny.
To stick Van with Duck Dynasty.
It was funny.
And I stuck us with about 44 minutes worth of...
Yeah, but, it's half as long as Queer Eye. At least it was over fast.
That's true. I'll give it that.
That was the best thing about it.
That's true, but if Queer Eye had, if 48% of Queer Eye was fluff, that is well short of the 100% of Duck Dynasty that doesn't even need to be seen.
No, none of it. It needs to be burned in
What do you guys think they would think about each other's reality shows? I'm not sure Duck Dynasty would like Queer Eye very much.
No, and I do kind of want to save that talk because we'll be doing Swap Out in episode 2. So
okay, perfect, great.
Put a little pass on that, but keep in mind it's going to be good discussion.
Good.
So I think we should just get into the show info here. I'll tell you a little bit about Duck Dynasty.
That's perfect. I do want to get it out of the way. We're going to be doing this again the next round. I'm going to be picking for you after this, so we're not done picking for each other.
That's right.
We're going to go around one more time.
Yeah, we're doing one more round of Boob Tube Hot Potato.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Discussed it before the episode began, decided it was a good idea, and so I now have to be a little more wary of what I give Spencer.
Yeah, I honestly, and this just shows like you don't shit where you eat. Because I did this, and then not knowing that means within a matter of weeks, Van will pick a show for me.
It's going to be
but
good.
You can't pick Duck Dynasty, so I sort of already took the worst option on the table.
Well, I mean, we've already got King of Queens, Duck Dynasty, Mad About You. What more is it that you could bestow upon me that would be awful? Never mind, don't answer that question.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So Duck Dynasty is a reality television series featuring the Robertson family, who became successful through their family-owned business, Duck Commander, which admittedly sounds pretty cool.
If you've heard this story once, you've heard it 1,000 times.
The key members of the family, as far as the show goes, are Phil and his brother Cy, who's known as Uncle Cy, as well as Phil's sons Alan, Jace, Willie, and Jep, as well as their respective wives, who largely appear on the show to be housewives and arm candy for the the men.
Anything.
Well, that's their cultural mentality.
Oh, they're made not to do it, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
He actually makes fun of her one time. He's like, if I can run a company, I think I can do this. It's the next episode. But yeah, he's just very dismissive of her. It's like, he doesn't really respect her at all.
I don't, you guys, I can't imagine anyone wearing a whole lot of camo being dismissive of a woman's opinion.
Yeah, that's a little strange, isn't it?
Well, the show ran on A&E. Spencer, the show was on A&E. One of your best notes.
I don't trust A&E anymore.
No.
I got to say, everything about Duck Dynasty screams arts and entertainment.
Yikes. Well, it was on from
Does
2012.
It do either?
It was on from 2012 to 2017, and the 4th season premiere drew 11.8 million viewers, making it the most watched nonfiction cable series in history. Now, that's a lot of qualifiers. Still a big deal. That's an awful lot of watchers.
Well, just on the sheer number of viewers, that's...
Yeah, people apparently liked the show. It connected with them in some way. I don't know what.
Yeah, and not to kind of get us sidetracked here, but I wanted to talk about the cultural impact of this just briefly. A guy I worked with, I did a manual labor job for several years, and it was fine. But a guy I worked with, I now know, comedically sort of borrowed specifically from the Jace on Duck Dynasty. And I know this in retrospect. A lot of his speech mannerisms.
His humor.
And it kind of now...
Jace is dry. He's really...
Right. You're right. And it kind of now, looking back upon it, I see it works the same way. Now, I've never watched Duck Dynasty, but I'd imagine if you're from a rural area, as we are, and you're into hunting and things like that, maybe you would find some charm in this to where you'd want to imitate it. But I guess that's not even a thing I found fathomable until now.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The show also sparked multiple spin-offs, including Jep and Jessica Growing the Dynasty, and my personal favorite, Going Cy-Roll instead of viral. It's a stretch, but I like it.
I don't think he can carry his own show.
Well, he and Willie would apparently watch like YouTube videos and comment on it.
React
He'd go,
to
hey,
it.
Jack,
That's the laziest.
Hey, Jack, hey. That's all the man fucking says.
There are usually 4 words between hey and Jack also.
That's fair. I'm not giving him enough credit. Shame
I really
on me.
think
Hey, give me that duck, Jack.
I really think reacting, and to a degree, that's what we do, but reacting to something you see, and that's your whole business model, is the laziest form of, that's like, all you're doing there is you're just watching something and being like, oh, I'm going to riff on that now. It's like, you didn't do anything. That's like using a bunch of secondhand quotes in an article and calling it journalism.
It's the thing I despise, and I will never, ever understand why anyone has any interest in this. It's reaction videos to like movie trailers. Because it's not, it's a lot like Duck Dynasty. It's not even remotely real. They're turning it up to 50, not even 11.
Yeah.
Because they want that watch. Like, they wouldn't do that if you're watching a trailer on your own.
No, but that's what people want them to do. So they play into the audience. It's totally inauthentic.
I think that I've probably told both of you this, but I once appeared in a trailer reaction video for a podcast I used to appear on.
I think you skipped telling me that.
A friend of ours.
But
No, I went
can...
in with a game plan, which was to, and I did tell our mutual friend this.
I'm sure we can mention
advance.
him.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how he's doing. So
yeah.
I But I told him in advance my plan, and he was totally cool with it, which was to approach it with a sense of verisimilitude.
Nice.
Which is, I was recorded just staring blankly at the screen for a minute and a half.
Like someone might do.
Even if I enjoyed the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm not privately going to be like, whoa, Thor! Cowabunga!
Well, Duck Dynasty ended after 11 seasons and 130 total episodes.
That's a few too many.
It's more than a few too many.
So they squeezed 11 seasons into 5 years?
Mm-hmm. It's that reality show thing. Or
and
Hey
Dude.
Thing. And Hey Dude. Chopped. I like watching Chopped, which, by the way, totally reality show. It's a competition show.
I have trouble with Chopped. It is, yeah.
I have a lot of trouble with it, too.
You know, I like it, but
I have a lot of trouble with the curve.
You watch like a couple of those in a row, and you're like, that's enough.
It's
like,
too much. I can't watch 3 people go to the fucking ice cream machine at the same time in the final round every single time.
What is this show?
I've got to cook this octopus. They give them a thing,
Mystery
and they have the ingredients, but they don't know what they're going to cook with them until and they have like 30 minutes to do it. So these are really complicated dishes.
Octopus ice cream, obviously.
They're running around trying to do it without any forewarning.
The first round will be 4 people competing, 4 contestants, and the host, by the way, Ted Allen, who's on the original Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, is the host of Chopped.
Oh, nice.
Really? Didn't know that at all.
At least it's not Tim Allen.
Me. Oh, God. Cooking things. I like gay people.
Only women should have to cook.
Well, anyway, then they give them this box of mystery ingredients, and Ted Allen reveals that he's like, your mystery ingredients today are an old shoe, a coconut, a bag of donuts,
and a swordfish.
And you must make us an entree.
Random, yeah.
It's so stupid, but it's enjoyable to watch in small doses, like you're saying, Spencer.
It's overbearing.
Anyway.
Stressful, too. Like, I remember I used to watch that, like, when I was trying to...
Heart pounding.
I was trying to get myself to focus on anything else while I was on a treadmill or whatever watching that. It's even getting worse. It's like, how the fuck are they going to get this done, and how am I going to finish this run?
My heartbeat is increasing more from watching Chopped than it is from running.
And then the judges, by the way, are total fucking assholes.
You could have done this better. It's like, you had 10 minutes.
Exactly. All right, back to Duck Dynasty.
No, let's keep going and Chopped.
I would rather talk about Chopped. The show dealt with plenty of controversy throughout its run, most often thanks to the fact that Phil Robertson, again the patriarch of the clan, is an unrepentant homophobe and Christian extremist. Phil founded Duck Commander as a business in West Monroe, Louisiana. He made duck calls out of cedar trees, is what he said he was doing in a canoe.
What a genius.
Now, prior to the company taking off, Phil attended Louisiana Tech University, where he played football and graduated with a master's degree in education. And he spent several years as a teacher. Brought this up on the Patreon bonus show, patreon.com/Bootu.
You didn't bring up that he was a teacher.
No, I didn't say
horrible. This guy was teaching people. Oh, my God.
But terrified. A lot of these guys graduated college, or at least went to college in some regards. So fascinating.
Turns out if you show up and someone pays for it, essentially, you'll get your piece of paper that says you're intelligent.
That says you're allowed to tell people what to think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently.
In a classroom setting.
Now, Phil professes to have been a wild child and dealt with problems like substance addiction and a strained relationship with his wife for many years before eventually leaning hard into the psychopath Christian mentality and ultimately becoming an angry monster. Now, I said his wife had a strained relationship. It's the same woman. It's Miss K from the episodes we're about to watch. They've been married since they were young.
She also has a strained relationship with reality.
That's putting it lightly. Also a hoarder, apparently. Katie was telling me. Oh, by the way, Katie's watched almost all of these episodes.
What?
Why?
You have to ask her yourself.
I mean, that can't even be like up her alley.
I left the room. I was like, I can't stand to be in the same room as you right
Does she prefer King of Queens or Duck Dynasty?
I think she would say King of Queens.
I
would even.
King of Queens is awesome compared to Duck Dynasty.
Oh, yeah. I would watch Queen of Queens every day.
And that's saying something for you, since you really threw a fit about that one.
Now, like I said, Phil's wife, Miss K. Robertson, also appears on the show, Hoarding Habit. Plenty of swamp wife knowledge, which is what she brings to the table. She has
a deep knowledge of swamp things and places you should prepare food.
Now, in 2012, Phil Robertson stated on Sports Spectrum, a Christian sports publication, that he confronted producers of Duck Dynasty about editors of the show telling them not to say Jesus' name while praying at the end of the episodes. And they added intermittent bleep sensors over just random words, even though they supposedly don't curse. And I know, I don't remember seeing too many instances of it, but the producers would put random bleeps to make it sound like they were more edgy. And Phil really didn't like this. So that was the first little controversy where he came out and was kind of, snotty about it.
We got to bleep the curse words, but time for some homophobic epithets.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, Robertson cited the issues as part of what is often called spiritual warfare, and that there was no swearing that needed to be edited out. The prayers were being censored to avoid offending non-Christian religious people. I believe he said something along the lines of them Muslims, something like that.
Oh, yeah. Because
I wish they would have, instead of bleeping out, like when they said Jesus or God or something like that, they replaced it with Allah.
Yes, that would make all of them mad.
I also like the idea too that he was saying, like, not everyone's religious. Some of them are Muslims instead. So it's like, yes, I'm very Muslim because I don't believe in Christianity.
That's not far from what he said.
I'm sure it is.
A&E actually did not comment on these claims.
Again, this is an education major who taught students. This is horrifying.
Yeah. In 2013, just a year later, Phil gave an interview with Drew Magary of GQ, who asked Robertson, "What do you think is sinful?" To which he replied, "Man, Jack, you start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and that woman.
Yeah, these are all on the same playing field."
He then went on to paraphrase from 1 Corinthians, saying, "Don't be deceived. Neither the adulterers, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers, they won't inherit the kingdom of God. Don't deceive yourself. It ain't right."
Why don't you die and find out?
Robertson also questioned the appeal of same-sex relationships, saying that the vagina is more appealing to a man. It's just science, guys. It's a fact. It's a fact, Jack. The vagina is so much better than a dick. I mean, no question about it. This fucking guy. I mean, I think that, but I'm a straight guy. Never had a dick. Maybe, who knows?
You might be like, well, you know what?
I don't think this is, I don't want to go too off.
I have a dick.
I don't want to go too off here, but yeah, we've discussed how we think men are gross. I just think it's objectively men are gross, and women deal with it because some of them are willing to.
Sure.
But I don't think it's homophobic to say, like, just kind of from a neutral perspective, it's men are gross and women are not, but that doesn't mean that you look at it in terms of, like, if you don't feel that way, you're a sinner.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that bad.
So stupid. All right, let's see here.
Other things he found sinful include Domino's dessert pizza.
Are you kidding me? That's the greatest thing man has created.
I don't like dessert pizza.
It's a life.
You wouldn't.
It's a life
I don't
pleasure.
get sustenance out of it. It doesn't produce the energy I need to do whatever.
I've been eating more pizza than you could fathom this week, though.
Good for you.
But not dessert pizza, because I'd be dead if I were eating dessert pizza all week.
Fair enough. Now, Robertson said that he does not judge anyone, but leaves that up to God.
Despite just judging everyone.
He said, "We just love them, give them the good news about Jesus. Whether they're homosexuals, drunks, terrorists, we just let God sort them out. You see what I'm saying, Jack?"
Ooh. I can actually feel
a little bit hot.
Yeah, I'm pretty mad. Like, just even hearing all this.
Well, A&E actually did, after this, the GQ interview, announced a suspension.
Calm down, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We are a network. We have to work with a lot of personalities.
Now, right after this, there was a Facebook campaign by people who use Facebook, just having backlash.
Which is actually a better name for it
at this point. Yeah.
Given the political
Is this maybe like a Parlor up? What's that one site?
Yeah, Parlor. Yeah,
was that an uprising with like the Proud Boys? Where they're like, we gotta take A&E down for censoring Duck Dynasty.
They stopped Phil Robertson from talking about how the gays are evil.
This is just like Hitler burning them books.
Well, after the Facebook backlash campaign, A&E relented almost immediately. They pulled back the suspension,
that's too bad.
And they were just like, whatever.
Too much money in it for them.
Yeah, that's disappointing. A&E.
I'm sure that was their biggest cash cow.
And Phil has essentially had very little in the way of repercussions for this thinking since. Like, no one seems to give a shit about this. Mm-hmm. The controversy, of course, did not end there. In 2015, Robertson was awarded the Breitbart Defender of the First Amendment Award. Ugh. And in a half-hour
I hate every
speech,
word you just said.
At a half-hour speech at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, he said that STDs are the legacy of Nazis, communists, beatniks, and hippies.
Oh, wow.
And then he sucked Steve Bannon's dick.
Well, actually, after that, he told a long and graphic anecdote about an atheist and his family being murdered, and the assailants would say, "But you're the one who says there's no God, so there's no right or wrong. We're just having fun."
Yeah, because there's no need for morality unless there's like a pre-designed set of rules to follow that like somebody just wrote down.
Yeah, that's the only reason you do it is because of God.
Otherwise,
not
like
endless.
Me as
you
an
guys
atheist.
Don't think the laws are just made up?
That's why I just treat you guys like fucking dog shit all the time, because I'm an atheist.
Well, the controversy didn't end there either, because in 2016, Phil Robertson starred in and narrated the Steve Bannon-produced film Torchbearer, in which Robertson makes a compelling argument on the absurdity of life without God. Somewhere after Phil's views became very public, viewership of the show took a nosedive, Duck Dynasty, that is. And after getting the 11.8 million viewers in season 4 premiere, that number had sunk to just 4.6 million by season 6. Now, about Torchbearer, I looked it up because I thought I might try and watch it. I know I couldn't get through it, but I wanted to, be able to experience and talk about it. You can't find it anywhere that's not Amazon for like $8.
Or like the dark web.
You can't even torrent it. Yeah, no, I couldn't find, because people who know how to torrent obviously don't watch that shit. They're not going to
upload that. They're only uploading like cool movies and porn.
And of course, Steve Bannon, if nothing else, is very good at making money. So he knows that whatever it is, just sell it. Somebody will buy it. I'll make $8 off it or whatever. So I watched the trailer and it was real shitty. He basically goes through historical events. He's like, Caesar did this, so therefore God. It's just bullshit like that.
Because this Duck family, they are nothing if not historians.
Now let's move. Well, they're all educated, so maybe they were teaching history at Louisiana shit university.
That house that they show with Willie in it is just absurd.
Gaudy.
They have so much money.
Let's move on to the rest of this Robertson clan. We've got Willie, who's Phil's son and the current CEO of Duck Commander, as well as multiple spin-off businesses and television shows, including Buck Commander, which is, I guess, about deers. Very clever. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread the entire title. It's Buck Commander Protected by Under Armour. So they got their sponsor.
Yeah, you got to get that in there. Duck Dynasty, presented by Valtrax.
Now, he's also had multiple cameos, and that's the herpes medication, isn't it? Nice. Now, Willie's also had multiple cameos in movies and shows, including Last Man Standing, which, of course, stars conservative caveman Tim Allen, who we mentioned earlier somehow. God's Not Dead, which Brian and I saw. That was, of course, long before we understood Duck Dynasty in the capacity we do now, anyway. And of course,
that just happened.
They were on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because if there's anything I want, it's redneck racists on my improv show or whatever.
Yeah.
Sketch comedy.
What did they have to say about Greg Proops?
Oh, boy. You don't want to hear about it.
What about
Greg
Colin
Poops?
Mockery?
Canadians. Maybe they didn't like him either. Not bald. Maybe Uncle Si had something to say about that. Who knows? Now, Willie attended Harding University and graduated from Northeast Louisiana University with a degree in business, and is largely seen as the reason for the Duck Commander company taking off and becoming the multi-million-dollar enterprise it is today.
I bet when people ask him where he went to college, he's like, "Hey, where'd you graduate from?" Harding.
Yeah, exactly.
He covers his mouth after the har syllable.
Now, his wife Corey, who he married a year out of high school, also appears in the show alongside their children John Luke, Bella, and Sadie, which is straight up a dog's name. I had a dog named Sadie, and that's all I think of. No human should be named Sadie. I'm sorry.
I feel sorry for Sadie.
Next up, Jason Silas Jace Robertson is Phil's second son and is often seen as the main foil for Willie, and an overall just mischief maker. That's what I got out of it. He has crazy eyes, too. I'm afraid he's going to hurt somebody someday.
He actually, though, comes across as more harmless to me for some reason.
He comes across that way. I think he is maybe not smart, but clever.
He is a good actor.
Compared to the rest, too.
Well, that's one I was going to say. I think he has the strongest set of skills when it comes to understanding what he's supposed to be.
Right.
And then blending with that with who he is.
That's fair. Yeah, I can get behind that. Now, at one point, he was the COO of Duck Commander, and in 2019, he announced on his podcast, Unashamed with Phil and Al Robertson, that he, quote, works on Wall Street. I couldn't find any other information, but that's what he said.
Probably because it's not true.
No, I think he just climbs a wall, and he's like, this here's Wall Street. There's a toy car here. And so that was just a street, too.
Yeah, there's actually a street that's just called Wall, also in Shreveport.
Jace's wife, Missy, also appears on the show, as well as occasionally alongside his 4 children. Now, next up, Silas Merritt Cy Robertson, or Uncle Cy. He's a fixture on the show as a chaotic swamp goblin, and he's Phil's brother. He's, of course, the star of the spinoff series I mentioned on, maybe in this episode.
It was.
Going Cyril, of course, where they watch the viral videos. After dropping out of Louisiana Tech as a young man, he was drafted in the Army and served during the Vietnam War.
I would have never guessed this. I was in Vietnam.
Which he brings up as often as he can in the show.
My dad might have met Cy.
If only.
You just never know.
What if Charlie told you stories about some guy and it turns out it was Cy?
They would not have.
Yeah, there's this guy who just always had his tea with him in a portable jug.
Kept calling me Jack.
Super weird.
I told him my name wasn't Jack.
Actually, next note here, he's known on the show for apparently having a jug of tea, which he refuses to put down, and of course saying Jack is the third word in every sentence.
Yeah, there's no way that's tea.
Now, no, there isn't. But thinking of it as tea, it almost endeared me a little to him because as someone with a horrible tea habit, I was like, okay.
But
yeah,
when
it
you
comes
realize,
up a lot.
When you realize it's actually Miss K's moonshine, it's less endearing.
All right, that's the bulk of the cast. I'm pretty much done going through those. So there are a whole bunch of other people in the show.
Are we not going to talk about Martin?
No, we're not going to talk about Martin.
Okay, well, we are here soon.
Godwin, yeah, that was an interesting one.
There's just a lot of bearded camo people with the last name Robertson in the show. That's essentially what we can boil it down to. So let's just move right the fuck along into this episode.
Fine. Let's get into this episode that I'm not sure what happened at any point.
Let's get into the duck and potatoes of the episode.
And save your thoughts for what this is as a show until the end. No. I'll just say that.
I won't say that.
Fucking awesome is what it is.
So I was really confused in both of these. The plot points didn't go anywhere. Yeah, and
you're saying there's a plot though.
They tried to say there were. So this one, of course, Redneck Road Trip essentially is a bunch of, but they're all in the RV, and the other one's the gators in the yard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. How do you even make 20 minutes out of that?
How do you keep up with these intertwining threads of plot?
And also, I was just really confused by the parts that they tried to make dramatic. That was just like, it's two things.
It was like when Jace arrives at Mordor and like he's a little conflicted.
And then Alan has to carry him because he can't carry the ring.
And then you start to wonder why Boromir had to die in the first place.
Well, let's see you summarize this. Let's make it work.
Well, our episode opens with a couple of establishment shots of the Duck Commander / Buck Commander warehouse, as well as of the family's RV, which just so happens to be smothered in Duck Dynasty marketing materials, including a yield sign with a duck on it that's been shot, the faces of the stars of the show, and of course that famous, well-known Uncle Si phrase, "Cut 'em all, Jack." What does that mean?
I think it's something he said a lot in Vietnam.
Now, you see, it turns out Willie likes to wash his RV once a week because he gives it the care and love one should give to the RV adorned with your family's visages. Jace wanders his way out of the swamp and on the frame, asking if Willie plans on going anywhere with it since he's washing it. And Willie says, "No way, man, I'm just taking care of my things." Willie shows his business savvy, of course, by referring to the RV as a showpiece, and that he has a mobile billboard right there. He can take it anywhere.
Genius.
Jace asks Willie when he plans on letting Jace take it somewhere, and Willie scoffs. "Oh, dear brother, you have not yet displayed the courage and wisdom to warrant commandeering this chariot of our success. She is but a fickle transport, and the road is fraught with hazards." Or, if you would prefer, "Come on, Jace, you ain't got to learning to drive this big bus."
I don't remember which one he actually said.
It's a toss-up. 50-50, I would say.
And this was the first time in the show. I feel that Duck Dynasty operates with characters in pairs who are essentially identical sets of twins, and Willie and Jace were my first conflict when it came to recognizing who was who in Duck Dynasty.
It's tough. It was tricky.
They both have very long brown beards, and, they are brothers.
Okay, you know how, for example, Twilight is a book series. I haven't read the books. Have either of you actually read them?
I read the first one, yes.
Okay, so...
I've seen them all, too.
Well, I've seen them all. But from what I gather about the writing is Bella is written as just a husk that you can, as the reader, put yourself in. That's what a lot of, we'll say, middle-aged women would do. That's why they loved Edward, because Edward fawned over Bella. But they don't really describe Bella to the degree that you would expect because the reader is
appropriate
in that
that
place.
They had Kristen Stewart play that husk then in the movies. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I actually like Kristen Stewart.
She's come a long way.
Incredible.
She was not very good back then.
None of them in those movies. They also didn't give two shits.
You could argue the ascent of actual ability from both Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson is pretty shocking.
Yeah. And Taylor Lautner, though, is not good.
No.
Never was.
Yeah, he was never an actual actor, though. The other two were. He was.
Yeah, but
your eyes could drool over that guy.
Yeah, and Robert Pattinson, too. They're all handsome people. It's just that was kind of a shit show as a series.
Moral of the story is I think that might be something that a lot of the Southern people who really love this show is that they can put themselves in these shoes because it's just blank canvases of hairy people.
It's also like a really common and increasingly common dramatic tactic, and it's in sitcoms, too. The likeness I wanted to kind of bring up was Kevin James, who his character is one of the most common forms of this, which is let's create a husk who has the vaguest of interests. I like sports. I like to eat a lot that any guy that age might have.
And that's kind of what you do when you're trying to reach a broad audience.
Yes.
Yeah, you're limited.
Now, Willie basically accuses Jace of just wanting to play with his toys, and he needs to get back to work.
That is a common theme I've noticed, where he's saying like Jace doesn't do anything, which from what I can see is true.
I don't think any of them really do anything anymore. Yeah. Now, before we transition, let me just say that there's no way that this scene was scripted at all. I think this is very realistic. Willie, at this time a multimillionaire, was most definitely washing his RV by hand, and the unused buckets of cleaning supplies at their feet were obviously there for a real, tangible reason. And to be honest, this scene has nothing to do with the rest of the show. It wasn't placed there as a potential catalyst for the conflict of the episode. So let's just move on. We'll call it the cold open. It doesn't have anything.
Sure.
Now we're going to move on to Spencer's least favorite part of every single episode, the part where we spend any seconds discussing the introduction of the show.
Did you watch them, Spencer?
No.
This one basically consists of a renegade-style description of the show, so let's just go ahead and hear that now and get the pesky concept of the show out of the way.
Meet the Robertson clan. They turned duck calls into a multi-million-dollar empire. But running a family business is tough when the family just wants to run wild.
Yeah.
I like that gunshot at the end there. That's pretty appropriate.
And there's kind of a redneck cry in the background, too. Also, this song that plays in the background, if it's not just called Shit Kicker, it should be.
And I'm actually glad you brought that up. I forgot to write this directly into my notes, but at the beginning of the show, the Boob Tube Boys episode, I always try to play the introduction song. There's apparently a whole thing where what we watched when we watched it, I watched it on Tubi. Brian, you watched it on Tubi and Amazon. Where'd you watch it, Spencer?
Duck Dynasty?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it on Tubi.
Okay. What? Jeez, I'm fucking sorry.
No,
God damn.
Not using a real platform. I'm not sorry,
my favorite part was also the idea that we might have been talking about a different show.
I was just confused because I didn't even know that another platform would carry Duck Dynasty.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, so
right?
I had a weird experience when I just Googled Duck Dynasty streaming like I do every couple of days and have for years. I saw several options and I chose Prime Video first because I it won't have commercials. So
that's true, I guess.
I mean, I'm paying Satan more directly, yes, but I go on there and I watched our first episode and then it skips from season 1 to season 10.
Weird.
Like most shows do.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, you go from 1 to 5. It's fine, no big deal.
So I had to Tubi the other one.
Well, anyway, the platforms we watched it on, it had some just hokey shit kicker song, as you said, Brian, in the background.
Both Amazon and Tubi.
When the show aired live, it had Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top.
Which is the best kind of shit kicker song.
It really is. So that's what I played at the beginning of this episode. However, the clip I just played is from the one we literally watched. So that's the shit kicker song. That's why if you're sitting at home, you're like, that didn't match. How dare they?
My Duck Dynasty experience is different than this.
Now you understand
Duck
why.
Dynasty. They've got like a bumper sticker for it. No Obama.
I always think it's funny that what if we did like key into one of those demographics accidentally with these shows?
They really love us.
And that actually is what made us take off. It's like,
which one of your Boob Tube Boys is the favorite?
I couldn't find anyone that liked Duck Dynasty enough to analyze it in this detail.
I just can't get over all of the irreverent wit of that family.
Well, now, all the while the speech is going on, we're seeing scenes of multiple men with beards wearing camouflage and doing just filthy things. And I don't mean filthy as in crass. I mean filthy as in caked with mud, dirt, animal excrement, all that kind of crap. Eventually, the narrative is pushed that they, of course, came into their massive fortune and were able to buy huge houses and a large fancy car. But you know what? The surroundings may have changed, but they're the same old nasty swamp people they've always been.
You can take the pig out of the slop. You can't take the slop out of the pig.
Now, after returning from that intro scene, we do find Willie and Jace in Willie's office, which is as brown and adorned with animal corpses and weapons as just you would guess, as many as you'd guess. Willie is very much for real, talking to a real person on the very actually real but not fake phone with this real phone call, and he hangs up with a tinge of excitement in his voice. Turns out he just made a purchase that is going to change his life forever.
Bunch of TVs.
What was that about?
I just bought 2 sweet Polaris UTVs.
Really?
They're sweet.
I'd like to see them.
God dang it, they're so sweet.
That looks like a mad spider.
Sweet.
They're by Polaris brand. Is that enough? Did I say it enough times to get the marketing money?
Now, before we talk about what the fuck a UTV is, I have to ask, what word would you guys use to describe these UTVs?
Well, it's a vehicle.
Sweet.
Sweet. That's the correct answer because we said sweet 6 dozen goddamn times.
He did pause too the last time, Winter. You know, it's like it's sweet. I think he was affirming it for himself.
So did they just swamp people fuck up ATV, or is UTV a thing?
So when I arrived at the Bootu Inc. studios today, I had a conversation with friend and, for one of us, girlfriend of the podcast, Katie.
Spencer.
And we determined it must just be ultra.
I was thinking ultimate. So yeah, something along those lines. But they also call them ATVs later.
I'm not sure. I think it's the accent. I think that was the confusion. I think they're always saying UTV, but sometimes it sounds like ATV.
Oh, okay.
I might be wrong, too.
Who knows?
I couldn't make
Swamp
heads
hobos.
nor tails of it. Feathers nor bills of it.
Good little duck joke in there. All right, now Willie reveals that he planned on going out this weekend on the U/ATVs and, quote, tear up some mud, but he has to wait 2 weeks before he can go pick them up. Jace gets upset about having to wait that long, and Willie reiterates that Jace loves to take his things and return them in terrible shape. So what is this? When are we going to take them out that Jace keeps insisting on? Jace concocts a plot in his little head and says, look, if I go pick up the ATVs today, would you let me ride one? After a little bit of consideration, Willie decides, that's a fine idea. Jace does say he can't quite do this all by himself, so he needs to take someone with him, and Willie says, okay, that's fine. Jace also has to use a company car, and despite Willie's considerable brilliance and the RV interaction that just happened, he agrees to the deal as well.
Man, this scene, too, as it plays out, and we've talked about it a lot, it's very surprising to me how scripted this show is, and it feels more like a glove over time because you're used to seeing it, but this is within the opening minutes of the first episode we watched.
Very fast, yeah.
And one of the things that it reminded me a lot of is several years ago, my stepfather, Pete, and I, he would be up late because he wasn't feeling well, couldn't sleep, and sometimes I would sit down with him and watch episodes of Pawn Stars.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of that.
And this was a lot like that to me, where it's
Which wasn't that Annie as well?
I think so.
Probably
that
so.
Was the same.
Or the History Channel.
People probably just binge through all those shows when they're watching. I'm like, oh, my Duck Dynasty Pawn Stars double team is coming up.
Yeah, and it's the sort of reality show where you have like a sitcom, like designated characters who fulfill roles. And that was and I only probably saw like 5 or 10 episodes of that, but this felt a lot like that.
Very much so. Yeah, I'll talk at a whole about the concept of reality TV.
Now, I also wasn't sure if you were going to mention how for some reason... And I don't know how John Oates gets forgotten when Hall and Oates are mentioned.
It made me mad, so I skipped it. Come on. If you know who Hall is, you know who Oates is.
Yeah.
Bullshit, Willie. Fucking bullshit. I skipped the slights to Hall and Oates. All right, now that I'm pissed off about Hall and Oates, let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll continue discussing Willie and Cy and all this bullshit. As Jace heads off to gather his raiding party, Willie is basking in the glory of how well this has all worked out for him. Jace immediately heads to the key box and takes the RV keys. Oh, big surprise.
Can't believe Linda let this slip.
Fucking Linda, man. And he then makes his way to what we're being presented as the room where they make all of these insanely valuable duck calls. There's a whole bunch of swamp people in the room, including Uncle Cy, Jep, some portly bearded man with a shirt with the sleeves cut off. We find out his name's Godwin.
No, that's Martin in this episode.
Okay, Godwin's the goateed one.
Yes.
Okay. Jace reveals the plan and asks which of the guys want to come with him. Now, of course, they all want to go. They want to stop working and go. And Jace says, what the hell?
Stop working.
What a rule breaker. He was
implying they started at some point.
He was only supposed to take one guy.
Uncle Cy asks where they're going, and Jace reveals it's to Shreveport, which Cy refers to as the big city.
Yeah, there ain't no city like Shreveport.
That's what they say.
Big old city. And he's like, anything more than 400 people.
I think he does say that, 400 or 500 people.
Now, next we get a title card that tells us we're at Phil and Miss Kay's house, and the description just says, Jesus and Jambalaya. Now, the two reveal they are both preparing for something called Duck Commander Sunday at the church, and Phil describes it as quite possibly the worst thing I have ever heard of.
Duck Commander Sunday is basically a redneck rendition of fearing God, loving your neighbor, and hunting ducks. I say a few words, we'd all sing church songs, you know. Everyone has camo on, and everybody happy, happy, happy. What are you doing?
Would either of you ever choose to do this, even for a humor factor?
No.
No, not unless I was going deep undercover for like a mission, like the world depended on it or something. And even then, I'm not entirely
That's too risky. You never know if you come out the other end.
Also, why does Phil specify a redneck version of like fearing God and duck hunting? That's the only version of that.
Well, let me actually divvy this up. Let me actually shift here because he said redneck, you said redneck. I don't think these people are redneck.
I don't
I've
think
said
so
it many
either.
Times.
I don't
They're
think so
swamp
either.
people. These are like Creole swamp people.
Yeah, this is deep South swamp.
Yeah, redneck is too generic of a term, and it's not there.
Redneck is like you're in Kentucky and sometimes you drink too much Ham's beer.
You have a sleeveless shirt, you drink a bunch of beer, you work on cars. That's a redneck to me.
All you need to do is listen to a few Jeff Foxworthy stand-up sets.
If you've ever eaten a pile of frogs, you're not a redneck, you're a swamp person at that point.
You might be a swamp person if...
Now, whatever church this is basically sees Phil Robertson as the man to hope to strive to be, I guess. So they allow him to speak and say horrible things to large groups of rowdy swamp folk. But Miss K isn't just going along for the ride. She's making an industrial-sized amount of her famous jambalaya.
In the yard.
Yeah, we get to that
big
point. It's
old
disgusting.
pot.
Also,
big
quick update. Shreveport's metro area is about 75% of the size of Springfield, Missouri.
That's
where
it? I thought it would have been bigger than that.
So they're right. It's not a very big area.
Well, every couple of months, more of it sinks into the swamp, and you have to
or
shrink
like
the size.
Cy takes part of it.
He conquers it. That's what it is. Now, back at Duck Commander headquarters, after our 4 yokels have taken off in the RV, Willie is on the intercom asking for one of them when Linda, the receptionist, says Jace took the keys to the RV and left with the crew in tow. Oh, Willie is mad. The Cracker crew is barreling down the highway, and Jep says that this is like a mancation. No Willie, just life on the open road.
When Linda has to break the news to Willie, it reminded me a lot of the scene in Columbo where Adrian Carsini's secretary is in on it.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the same sort of crime. Murder, borrowing an RV.
Same difference. She's going to start blackmailing Jace after this whole thing.
Because that is blackmail. What Mr. Belding does to Zach is extortion.
Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
There's also in this scene, they do one of those like talking heads of Jace where, knowing the political views of this family, this is pretty funny. He says, true freedom means no walls.
Oh, jeez.
Which, yeah, it does. Mm-hmm. Can you apply that to other areas of your thinking?
Now, Willie phones Jace and just bitches away, but Jace calls him a loser and hangs up on him.
Best part of the episode.
Frustrated, Willie heads to Father Phil's house and finds Miss K in the front yard stirring that jambalaya in an oil drum. Dirty oil drum. What the fuck? You're feeding strangers this food that you cooked in your yard in an oil drum?
There's no way that there's not like residual oil in there.
Well, she might have climbed in there and cleaned it just yesterday. We didn't see it. I don't know. It's huge.
It is massive.
You can't clean that thing without getting in it.
Look, if you're going to make a pile of jambalaya, you got to find what vacant vessels you have in your yard to put it into.
That's what I do.
I don't get the whole, and that is definitely this demographic of people that like to cook in large things outside. Maybe they put it in the ground, like they put a whole pig underneath the surf. They dig it up and then they put coals in there. That whole cooking outside thing is really popular with barbecue in that sort of region. I just don't understand.
You get more protein when the flies and bugs fall into the jambalaya tin.
I think maybe they're just trying to make it the most authentic that it was when we were the least evolved, which is probably something that does speak to them in some way.
And I've had like a shrimp boil, but traditionally use cookware, not oil drums. And it's like, it can be good. It's a little gross for like 6 people standing around a paper table just smacking on crawdads. It's disgusting, but it's kind of fun.
Is this the same oil drum that you buried that girl in, Phil?
I burned her out back the house so her bones ain't in there no more. Anyway, Willie tells Miss K about Jace's master plan and asks where her pirogue is. Pierogi? Have you ever heard this word?
Pierogies are they're like Polish
sandwich.
Potato pockets.
Yeah, what was pirogue is how he says it. I think it is in the show. And it's basically,
I didn't know what he was saying.
I looked it up. It's a small, narrow canoe. Oh. And it's like a South American word, so I'm surprised they stuck with it and didn't just rename it like a freedom boat. Anyway, he asks where their pirogue is, and she says it's over in one of the piles of filth over there. And Willie
there are just piles
everywhere.
Of sheet metal and
so when we were watching the show, that's where Katie said, she's a hoarder or something along those lines. And I guess I read a synopsis of one of the plots where they talk about her hoarding habit. And having watched the show Hoarders, again, a reality TV show, I see it. I think she really probably is a hoarder, despite having millions of dollars and could do whatever she wants. Ugh. Willie heads over to grab that pirogue when he shrieks and falls over backwards because there's a gator in there, and there's a gator right here. Brian brought his gator that I gave him months ago when we did the bonus show. It was from the
Hercules bonus show, and I found it very appropriate as
really
a token gator for the episode today.
Not quite as big as the gator that they found there.
Well, that was a little one too, though, only 5 feet.
Only 5 feet. it's a pissed off little gator, too. Willie needs to get the pirogue out of the filth pile. So what's he going to do? Phil comes out after all the fuss and asks what the deal is, and the two Robertson boys discuss what to do about the situation. Phil says, like you said, Spencer, it's not a big deal. He's just a 5-footer. And Willie's...
Which would be true if an adult man was coming at you.
that takes on a whole different context.
He's just a 5-footer. Don't worry about it.
No
just
big
kind
deal.
of push him over.
And Willie is having quite the fit over this not very big alligator that most definitely found its way there on its own and was not placed there by the producers at all.
Yeah, that poor thing.
I know. He's fucking mean to it. He's whacking it with a golf club.
And it's hissing. It obviously doesn't want to do anything bad, or it would have eaten them all.
It was probably already in the water, and they probably forced it up onto the land to do this scene.
Have either of you touched like a live alligator?
No.
Yes.
Have either of you eaten an alligator?
Both.
That's pretty good.
Answer is yes to both, and I would like to elaborate at this time.
Yes. Please do.
Very briefly, in a previous relationship, the person I was with and I lived in a house next to another couple who had an alligator.
Wow.
They had a baby alligator they kept indoors. And of course...
Was it free roam?
Yeah, it just wandered around in there.
No.
Well, was it friendly?
I'm not kidding at all.
Was it friendly? Could you pet it?
Yeah, it was fine. It was like a little baby one.
And they honk. They make weird little sounds.
And then secondly, I've eaten an alligator hot dog.
That sounds pretty
good.
It was awesome.
What does it taste like?
It's
chicken.
Yeah, it's a lot
That's
like
what
chicken.
they say.
It really does.
And
it's
a lot
just
better,
a light meat.
A lot better than like a hot dog. You know, it tasted more like food.
It's kind of sweet. I'll say that.
Huh.
I liked it. I've
you
had
guys
like fried
duck or alligator better?
Duck, yeah.
Yeah, but alligator's pretty good. I'd eat it again. I'd cook it for you guys. Maybe we'll see
Let's
if I can.
do that.
I feel like that's kind of mean considering I feel sorry for this alligator. I don't want to talk about eating one right now.
Well,
also, did you guys know that crocodiles are way worse?
Are they?
Like, they're meaner.
They're more aggressive.
They're meaner, yeah. And there's differences in the teeth and
they also tend to vote more along the lines of like the Duck Dynasty clan. They're jackasses.
Well, and what they do is they like to cry foul about a problem that happened and then shed these tears that aren't real.
The jaw pressure is wildly different.
They close, but the opening pressure isn't very good. They don't have strength to open their mouths. So that's why you hold their mouths shut.
Did you see that video where the guy had a dog and his pet was in the alligator's jaw and he pried it open himself or something in Florida?
Really?
Of course it was Florida.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's something where he saw his dog in there and just pulled the jaws open. I don't think you can do it with a crocodile. Crocodiles are a little meaner.
Interesting. You've got the alligator crocodile.
I don't have all the data. There's a little bit of a difference between the two, and from what I've understood, crocodiles are way more of a threat. Alligators, they're no big deal, just like Phil said.
What about caimans and gharials?
Gharials are weird. They have the really long, thin snouts with the little thing up top.
Yeah, those
caimans are big.
And gharials, I think, are the smallest of those.
Yeah, and they're in India?
Something like that. I had a zoo books that dealt with this specific material.
In this case, I honestly feel like this gator was so defenseless and innocent, didn't do anything wrong. It was just cornered.
And, well, what I wanted to point out, too, is I have like touched and messed around with an alligator.
Oh my!
Like this size too, like 5 foot. They really
You're kissing
are.
and telling. I see.
They don't really. They're not a threat. It doesn't seem like.
And if they're on land, they're kind of dangerous in water.
Yes,
but if they're on land, you really don't have to worry about. They're pure muscle, but because of that, they're not all that agile. So you really just get them by the tail and drag them away.
So
that's it.
Like a Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, pretty much. You give them a power bomb, or a suplex, and you're good to go. All right, let's get back to this. Back on the road, the group of camo-clad caricatures have made it to the ATV store. UTV store. And the salesman points out the ones that Willie bought, and wouldn't you goddamn know it, they've got chrome rims.
Yep.
Look at the rims.
Hey, look here.
Chrome rims.
Yep, chrome rims.
Willie, he ain't really got a clue what an off-road vehicle is. You know, chrome rims, he's got more sparkle to it than most Las Vegas showgirls.
Why would
To which I am familiar with touching, as I've buried several of them in my yard.
Yeah, this is also aggravating because it being from Missouri, it's the redneck trope of like, you can't care how something looks. Like, even if it makes you feel better, or if it's got an aesthetic pleasure to you, you know, fuck you, you know, I don't know. It's definitely one of the primary, giving shit is one of the primary redneck forms of humor, and it's not always very good-natured.
No, and this, I don't know if this was intended to be good-natured at all. I can see people doing this around here, which then tells me that people identify with the people in the show.
They would not have done this if they didn't. Because again, it's so tightly scripted.
So I get why it was successful in that regard. Now, the only problem here, which somehow Jace, with his ultimate brain, did not foresee, is that the added weight and length to the RV, thanks to the U/ATVs, could be a big problem. Well, nothing they can do about it now, so they head back to the swamp. At Phil's house, Phil and Willie are trying to think of a plan to take care of this gator, and Willie suggests that they call wildlife officials, but Phil shows his disdain for the man by saying essentially that if you were to call a game warden, they would make up reasons to give you a fine or a citation. Now, it couldn't be that
deep state,
his old-fashioned swamp man lifestyle, which includes disdain for any living creature other than the human beings and also the Bible, white Christians, all that leads him to do terrible things. It's that all game wardens are corrupt.
Yeah, and we've got to distrust anyone with any sense of authority. The best thing to do, I'm going to sit in this lawn chair.
Because they're just going to make shit up. They're going to come to my house and see that it's a filthy pile of garbage, and they're going to say, you shouldn't do this, here's a fine. It's not that he should clean the shit up, it's that they're giving him the fine, that's the problem.
Let's just pass that blame on.
So with the wildlife official plan off the table, Willie decides the best thing he can do is smack the shit out of the alligator with a 4-iron. Phil says just leave him alone. Once the gator cools down, I'll take care of him in a bit, which is honestly one of the more rational things this dumpster
What
man
he really
says.
means is I'm not going to do anything, and maybe it'll go away.
Pretty much. And they usually do.
Yeah.
They want to be in the water.
But the missing factor is the time factor, because Miss Kay's working on her yard jambalaya.
That's right. Headed home, the ATV group realizes they're all just starving. So they ask Cy, who's apparently the team chef or something or other, to go back and see if there's anything to cook.
He cooked
and eat.
In Vietnam.
Oh, good.
I love what he comes up with here. It's
disgusting.
Beans and hot sauce, essentially.
I wonder if it ever dawned on them being, I don't know, multimillionaires to just pull off and go through a drive-thru or something.
No, you got to make your own food, Jack. The reason they ask for Cy to do it, of course, is because he reveals he's the MacGyver of cooking. And he gives a whole list of ingredients that he can use to make a chicken pot pie out of a woodpecker meat. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, he says he's able to use what they have in the RV, which, as Spencer said, is pork and beans, hot sauce, and Spam, which he then reveals are the ingredients to his famous Vietnam special.
Which, okay, I alluded to it earlier. I think I've mentioned it before that my dad was in Vietnam, and this is exactly seriously the kind of stuff that he would cook.
Really?
Yes.
What was the butter bread, sugar bread?
Butter and sugar sandwiches. Ham and beans were a common thing.
Sure.
It must have been, there's something about that culture, I guess, that just stuck in the brains of the Americans who went over there or something. I don't know what that is.
I think it's like you're stuck in this situation for years,
Mm-hmm.
and
So
you learn to just eat on the fly.
Yeah. Not by coincidence, though, the Vietnam special is like Cy likes his women. Hot, sweet, and extra spicy.
Nothing
I
wrong
think he
with that
likes
line.
them to be mannequins, but we'll get into that next episode.
By the way, he's been married to the same woman for like all of his life. So does he mean how I like my woman?
Yeah. Also, is she a mannequin?
She might be. Now, according to what I just watched, he literally just combined all those things together, and everyone ate it, saying it tasted pretty good.
I bet it went fine, though, right?
Yeah, something about that. Now, there's trouble in paradise here, as Brian alluded to. The young men's stomachs are unable to handle the power that is the Vietnam special, and everyone who isn't Cy is having indigestion problems. And the big chunky guy, what'd you say his name was? Sleeveless shirt guy? Martin has to pull over. He's driving.
He's trying to tan those guns, though. He says it earlier. That's why they don't want to look at his sleeveless arms.
Oh, yeah, that's the guy who says, like, why are two guys looking at my white arms or whatever?
Because that's the go-to thing. Like, you're gay.
When Cy says, like, your eggs. And Cy says your arms look like two fluffy white egg whites or something like that.
Did you get stung by a bee? Because them biceps is swollen.
So Martin has to pull over, and rather than find a place to use the bathroom, he just uses the RV's bathroom with everyone being in it. Oh, not after with indigestion. If Brian were like, I got to pull over, guys. I
wouldn't even do that to you guys. Right. I would probably shit my pants before I just brought it in.
I doubt he had a choice. He had to go right then.
Well, all the men, Cy in particular, have major problems with the stench emitting from the RV bathroom, and Cy demands that they pull the vehicle over. Once they do, he flees the RV with his jug of tea, and he puts on the ATV/UTV helmet and settles inside of the ATV/UTV, being pulled behind the RV. He says he's refusing to ride in the RV, so despite wondering if this was illegal or not, the group says, whatever, let's just keep going.
Actually, you know what? I want to try something on for Cy's, because Cy's being a huge baby here. Like going into he won't sit in there and just smell a fart. And I'm going to put the shoe on the other foot here for just a second. All right. What are you, some sort of snowflake? You can't even handle a little bit of a smell, you little cuck.
Do you think it would work if you did that to him? Or
No,
how do you think he would treat it?
No.
I will say, I don't despise Psy as much as I despise
Psy's fine.
No, I don't
He's over the top.
I don't either. I just thought that this is, again, like a very...
that's perfect.
A very scripted thing, and another instance of like, oh, you get mad when people are frustrated with racial injustice, but you smell a fart and you
can't.
I mean, he's the one who cooked it anyway, so suck it up.
Goddamn Vietnam special.
You cooked it, you shook it. I don't know what that means.
Once again at Phil's house, father and son are trying to figure out how to get the gator out of the filth pile when Willie gets upset and says, "He's done bit everything I tossed in there." When Miss Kay has the revelation.
He's hungry.
Maybe that gator's hungry.
It took them 6 hours to find this out.
Well, he smelled a jambalaya, Miss Kay's jambalaya, and the
first
oil
note
barrel.
I put is, why would these people not just put the fucking gator in the jambalaya? Later they say it. They say, it's not gator season, which, of course they would recognize gator season.
There's no way that's real.
Is there? I was going to say, is there a gator season?
Apparently they talked about it multiple times in this.
They did. Times. I guess gators are like slow growing because they're fucking dinosaurs. But so maybe you can't like whittle the population down too much. I don't know.
She wanted to make gator balls, is all I'm saying. At the end, Kay was like, "Would make gator balls?"
No, there are 60-day gator hunting time frames.
You can kill all the gators you want. What are those 2 months? Just like
it varies by state.
Oh, okay.
May
what about
and
Missouri?
August.
Oh, we don't have gators.
We don't? I think we might somewhere.
We might.
We could talk to Ron at the Real Madej on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. Our Florida friend.
Inside.
I'm gonna turn into a gator hunter. I could do it.
Spencer Hendricks, gator hunter.
Well, you know how to shoot stuff. I'd imagine you could shoot a trank dart.
I'll take him down by hand.
It's what you do. You just jump on him, get him by the neck, and hold your mouth
choke him out.
Yeah, choke him
Make
down.
friends with him afterwards.
Powerbomb
we have
that
a beer
damn
together
gator.
at the
Put
end.
that gator in the sharpshooter.
Gator's got a black eye. I'm a little bit bitten, but we're friends at the end of the day.
You have a beer together at the bar, like you said. Now, Miss Kay's revelation, of course, that the gator's hungry prompts Willie to tie some nearby chicken chunks that they just have on a string on a stick, and he uses to lure this hungry dinosaur out. After seemingly 10 minutes of Willie just whacking the gator in the head with the chicken, it eventually gets a good hold on the meat, and Willie drags him back to the river. Now that the problem is taken care of, Miss Kay can get back to finishing her famous barrel of jambalaya, but before that, she reveals something Spencer just talked about she's disappointed she can't make.
I wish this gator was in season. I could make gator balls. I love gator balls.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Ew.
I'm so glad you included that. I put that in all caps in my notes, and it just says gator balls.
That was my last notes. Let's see what I said here.
Well, mine just says
gator balls if in season. So I did add a few little. Only if in season. You can't just do gator balls whenever.
What is a gator ball?
Like a meatball made of gator?
I guess.
I have to think it is, or
yeah, that's true, because that definitely would be their
does that mean that gators are all men? Like they all have balls?
Couldn't tell you about
they
their
kept calling this thing a man, and I was like, how do they know it's it could be a girl.
Stuff their thumb up his cloaca and figure it out.
It seems important, therefore I think it probably is a man.
Or it's like he's aggressive and take charge, so it's like, yeah, that's got to be a guy.
He looks like he could open his own successful duck call business. I believe he is a man.
Now, I don't know if Miss Kay is...
I don't like Miss Kay.
Slow.
I was going to
She's a bad line reader, that's for sure.
Well, she just speaks like that, like slurred, like Xanaxed out.
She also said about Willie, when Willie didn't protect her from the gator, that she cleaned his diapers. I've changed your diapers.
Yeah, I think you throw those things away.
I've never heard I've cleaned your diapers. Like, I mean, did they just throw him in a big pile and she wiped him down and put him back on him when he was a baby, or what? What does that mean?
Well, that's like a big push now for people who want to be more economic or environmentally friendly.
Which sounds like Kay.
They'll use those cloth diapers, and there's a service you send them to wash them, because you can't just throw that in the washer.
My mom hand washed my cloth diapers for a while.
Gross. Yours in particular. Even as a baby, I'm sure.
I'd imagine I was eating Taco Bell as a baby.
So it sounds like that, but they weren't, like, their family was not that poor. Duck Commander was doing okay. I don't know. Very weird. Now, with Cy riding in the ATV, trouble once again rears its ugly head in the form of a very real police officer who has not at all been placed or coached on what to do for this television program, and he pulls our heroes over, shouting disbelief that Uncle Cy would do something so stupid.
And you know that this is filmed in the early part of the series because no one starts just screaming, "Back the blue."
True. The cop somehow doesn't know who these people are, despite their faces being placed front and center on the RV.
That they're driving.
That they are driving, and he yells at the trio still in the RV, "Put your arms above your heads and stop," like he's really afraid
And
of
this
these
is
people.
when he guns down Jace.
It was kind of jarring, but I was fine with it, to be honest.
He deserved it.
Now, Cy starts to argue with the cop and says, you ain't going to make me ride up with them, is ya? And the cop says, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
But Martin took a shit in there.
But before they
4 hours ago,
before they figure out they better bring in their very real drug dog, who's a Labrador,
they
aka
couldn't find anything.
Not a drug dog
that you don't use as a drug dog. Yeah, the super real drug dog checks the smell and finds nothing but the stench of the Vietnam special, and the boys head off on their way.
Yay!
Now the show credits begin to roll as we see Phil at Duck Commander Sunday, where all these trash swamp hobos pray to God and wear camouflage like true Christians.
And eat
jambalaya. He gives his likely bigoted Sunday sermon. The voice of Willie comes over the footage, and he gives the message of the episode, because apparently every episode has a message.
He always learns something.
It's all wrapping us up in the guise of
I can't wait till we talk the next week about what he learned next week.
We learned something great. He basically says, no matter what happens, the Robertsons will always come through in the end for one another.
Yep.
And the show fades out, and we're fucking done finally.
We get
episode one.
A little bit of Phil at the pulpit too in the montage, which I'd imagine he's saying just all the worst things possible.
So let's go through this show and kind of our, I don't want to say expectations, but let's go with that. Did this meet or exceed your expectations in any way, Spencer, for what you thought it was?
I'd say this is completely unwatchable. I think most shows, even bad ones, have some redeeming quality, even if it's a slight thing. This one was honestly like, if it had been more than 20 minutes, I think I might have just been like, I don't think I can do this podcast anymore. Like it was
quit
one
entirely.
It was one of those things where it was like, honestly, why is anyone watching this at all? I could not find anything. I couldn't.
It's the worst show we've watched. I there's nothing redeeming about it. And I mean that in a sense of, we've watched boring bad shows, and we've watched interesting bad shows. And there's plenty for us to say about any of them, including this one. But this one, there's nothing to latch onto. And it's so overproduced and handled with kid gloves that essentially, like, you can't even, like, look at it with horrified wonder like you might if you're watching, like, a Neil Breen movie or something.
Yeah, because it was too held in place by a bunch
fabricated.
Yeah, and you certainly also can't be legitimately entertained by it because of that same reason. Like, nothing that we're seeing here is authentic, and other than Jace, who will probably be nominated for like a daytime Emmy, I don't think there's much acting talent on the show.
I found that I felt a lot of sympathy for unintended characters of that, like the alligator in the first one.
Yeah, the alligator's the best character in the series.
The girl at the coffee shop in the second one.
Yes.
And not just her, the clothing store girl, the employees.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this family is ruining these people's lives. That's the only thing I thought is like I found sympathy for people they didn't even intend to be a part of the show.
And I think that must be what reality shows like this are. The reality of the situation in this episode is Willie probably did buy 2 UTVs that needed to be picked up. So then they all sat around and like, how can we make this into a TV episode? And then they just kind of set it up to where you can pick your spots. And
it's a real reach that any of this would be dramatic in any form.
And it isn't. It is a very boring show, and I really expected there to be... I mean, and it's hard for someone listening to this who has never seen Duck Dynasty, just as we hadn't coming in. They're probably hearing the clips and hearing the things we're saying and thinking it sounds funny to watch.
It's not.
Or like entertaining. No. It's not entertaining. It's very boring.
It's very just vanilla in terms of what reality shows do, except with what these kind of people, their stereotypes are, but that doesn't make it funny at all. But I've noticed that every reality show I've watched, I got really hooked into like HGTV for a while, like the home building shows and stuff like that, like redesigning kitchens and doing stuff like that. It's all the same thing. They always have these fabricated concerns that they have to cut to commercial about, like, we didn't see this coming. Now, how are we going to overcome this? And it just comes across as like, we know that's not actually what happened here.
And why would I care if you overcame it? That's the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're hurting for a career or money or anything.
Yeah.
And you guys basically just covered exactly what I wanted to say, is that this is 85% scripted. Now, the 15% that isn't scripted is they get to the scene and these kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, I guess. They have the outline, they show up, and then they just talk like they would. They say, JC got to go out to the store and get me the ATVs.
And it turns out, and I'm just as surprised as you guys, but like Willie Robertson is not as gifted an improviser as Larry David.
Shocking, I know. And that surprised me because, well, for example, Katie is super excited for this fucking 90 Day Fiancé thing that's supposed to debut.
It's better than Duck Dynasty, I bet.
It is.
It's gotten a lot of attention that show has, actually.
It shouldn't. But anyway, it didn't show up on the streaming service, Discovery Plus, because apparently they're airing the show on TV and then a week later showing up on streaming. Made her mad. Anyway, so she watched the show called Welcome to Plathville, and basically it follows this very similar to these guys in that they're like in Kentucky, white family, that inbred white family, like they're all blonde, blue-eyed, and the parents don't allow the kids to go to regular school.
Have sex with other people.
They have sex in general. They control everything. These parents are monsters. And some of the kids have gotten to the age.
Parents.
Yeah, pretty
Which
much.
makes them sound so much cooler than they are.
They're such, it disgusts me watching the show.
That expression.
Because they essentially, because they're hovering around you. They never let you do anything on your own.
Can't make a decision on your own.
And they essentially, they control every aspect of their children's lives, which is a terrible thing to do. If you have children, you have to let them be children, be people. Some of the kids have gotten away. They left the family to discover the world. Some of the other kids are like, no, Mama says that Jesus punishes the unbelievers. Anyway, that
and one
show,
of them will be the next Ed Gein.
Yes, actually, there's one girl on that show in particular. She has a prayer closet where she writes scripture on the wall.
Oh boy,
wow, creepy.
That's where they'll find the bodies.
I'm getting that daughter out of my house.
That show feels more real because what they're doing is saying, we just want to follow these people and see what their lives are like. That's not what Duck Dynasty is.
Is that like that show with the Duggars where they have like 1,000
very
kids?
Similar, yeah.
Like something like that.
It's very similar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I forget what that one's called.
Is Duggar
30 and counting or something?
Yeah, where they just have all those fucking kids. That's really the entire
worst
premise of the show.
Yeah.
Is they have
a bunch
30
of kids. And then they're fucking monsters. One of the dad molested. I don't know, it's horrible.
Well, anyway. Considering how reality TV is the most popular form of entertainment, I think, it is now kind of occurring to me that why are we surprised?
No, yeah.
That the United States is in the condition it's in.
Yeah. This is not reality TV, though. That's the argument I want to make. This is so scripted. I was shocked. I didn't think it was this scripted. I thought, again, documentarian kind of way. They follow these people throughout their lives. Not at all. They sit down and they write scripts. They write down, what can we do that's funny? And I don't understand why anyone wants to watch that.
I don't either.
I just watch a sitcom that does
That's actually the thing that makes it the most unwatchable, which is very funny because these are people whose lifestyles and viewpoints are running in a different way than mine, but the thing that was most infuriating was exactly how scripted it was.
It was jarring. It took me by surprise, and I really didn't like
it comes down to instead of the focus of the show being how different these people are, you actually do end up getting subjected to their acting skills, which they don't have.
No.
They don't have that, so you can't even enjoy whatever entertainment value you would from someone who's as ridiculous as some of these people are. You don't feel like it's worth laughing at because it's written.
Not funny.
It's written and it's not well executed. So it's like, okay.
The next time this show comes flying at me, I think I'll just duck.
Okay. On that note, anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here and wash ourselves from this memory?
Hey, Jack, if we go to dinner with the Robertson clan, do you think they'll foot the bill?
No. I know what your joke was, but no.
I think that's the appropriate response. Just move past it and treat it like a real sentence that he made.
Hey, who do you think?
I feel like they wouldn't give us a penny of their income. No, they hate everybody.
Who do you think Jace's favorite actor of all time is?
Quack.
Feather Locklear.
Okay, that's pretty good. I do like that one. I used up all my puns on the bonus Patreon episode. So again,
it's largely Quack.
It was mostly
kind of
Quack.
Reiterated there.
Well, I wanted to make them as terrible as possible. Yeah. I think I
believe them. We fell for them.
So patreon.com/Bootu Inc. for just $2 a month or more. You get access to all those bonus shows where I basically fabricated a bunch of bullshit and asked Brian and Spencer to guess if it was real.
Glorious.
At this time, the archive is impressive. We got a lot of stuff on there. You should pay for that just to listen to those. Honestly.
And you get the whole back catalog.
That's right.
You can also find us on Twitter. I'm at Manly Van Lee. Brian is at no, I almost did it again.
Brian is wrong.
Brian is Ron Rigney.
At Loud Guitar Brian.
Man,
Spencer.
can we just? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we get Can he do one of these with us?
Like, we talked about it.
But that would be so fun. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Brian's
at Loud Guitar. Brian Spencer is at 3French_hen, the number 3. I think I said mine. So
I'm Gustavo.
I'm Gustavo Horencio, and we'll be back later. No, that's it. Check us out on bootubeboys.com, Instagram, wherever else you find your internet
Facebook.
bullshit.
We're not on Facebook.
Fuck Facebook. I'm done with that bullshit.
Fuck that shit.
They got this show back. So fuck you, Facebook. So that's it. I don't have anything more. We'll be back next week with more Duck Dynasty. We're going to cover, I don't remember what episode number it is.
It's coffee and dresses. It's fucking weird.
Season 3, episode 8.
There you go. Something like that. Duck Be a Lady. Check it out if you want to watch along with us. You don't. Just listen to us make fun of it. So for Spencer and Brian, I'm Van Lee, and we'll catch you next time on the Boob Tube Boys.
Jack.